Hi, my name is John Dady. I just created this podcast entitled Patriots Unite with host John Dady. Anyway, this is my first solo podcast on a regular basis. I'll have guests from time to time. That's the plan. So it's going to be kind of work in progress, and hopefully the progress gets better on a regular basis. So I'm going to be talking about a lot of different things, politically, of course, and I'll get into some spiritual things once in a while. And I usually will have a kitty around here somewhere. This is Greta. And, I'll talk some sports once in a while, just kind of mix it up because I can't talk politics 24/7 because there's more to life than that. But that is a very important part of life. And Patriots Unite, that's us uniting in a lot of different areas at the same time. It's not just one spot, one way to unite for one goal only. The ultimate goal being to save our republic from tyranny. That should be the paramount thing all of you are concerned about. If you're not, you need to learn. We are in a spiritual war in this country for the soul of this country, the country that God gave us. And we need to do more than just talk. We're not going to talk the Democrats, and I call them Democrats for a reason. We're not going to talk them out of stopping their efforts to bring tyranny here. It's never going to happen. They must be stopped. Now, when I say that, I'm not talking with bullets and guns and all this stuff. I hope it never has to come to that. And if we act properly, united in significant numbers with a stated goal, then it won't come to that. But the longer you all keep either doing what you're doing, not paying attention, or saying, woe is me, there's nothing I can do about it, or praying that God will come back and save you while you hide under your bed, that's just not going to happen. You can't expect things to just get better. We have to work to save this country, work together. Even Democrats at this point in time might be getting a little fed up with what's going on. That's giving a lot of them credit. Now, the reason I call them Democrats is real simple. Their lust for killing unborn babies. If that doesn't make you a demon, please tell me what would. So that's why I call them Democrats. They just love to kill unborn babies, and now I guess in one or two states it's okay to let your baby die within, I think it's 28 days of birth, and you won't be held criminally liable. Wow. Now, that's not Christian, that's demonic. Teaching this transgenderism is also demonic. It is nothing unusual for a boy or girl when they're young to think that, the girl's a tomboy or the boy wants to be a girl. Just nothing wrong with that. That happens. Now, in my generation and generations before, if the child didn't grow out of it by puberty, because guess what, folks? When you hit puberty, those hormones start raging, and it changes not just your physical appearance, but changes how you think psychologically, emotionally, mentally. Changes everything about you. So back in my days, you say, okay, you're 13, 14 years old now, you still have these issues. Maybe you should get some psychological counseling. Nobody ever said, let's go ahead and get you on puberty blockers and start cutting off body parts and adding more. Nobody ever suggested that as a solution. They do now as a matter of course. Well, my 3-year-old daughter likes to play cowboys and Indians and play with Tonka trucks and not Barbie and Ken. So she must be a boy. So you plant that seed in your kid's head, and you're the parent, you're the authority figure in their lives. What do you think is going to happen? So the thing is, you got to be smarter than your kid. Now, I'm probably going to offend a lot of people in a lot of ways, and that's fine. If I offend you, don't blame me, blame yourself for why didn't you know something, or why is your thought process the way that it is. It is not all right to butcher our children. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about once in a while. I'll talk about my favorite NFL team, the Kansas City Chiefs. I'll talk about football once in a while. And we'll talk about, I love to talk about man made climate change and the hoax that it is. It's never been real. Talk about this green new energy and how it's not designed to do anything other than to crash literally our economies. I can get in more details about that. It's Green New Deal it's just a hateful, diabolical scheme to literally decarbonize the planet. Guess what, folks? We are the carbon they want to get rid of. That is not a lie. That is not some crazy comment. World Economic Forum, all about it. Bill Gates has always been about it, just like his old man. They firmly believe we shouldn't have more than about 500 million people on this planet. That's enough to service, the elite. And they're out to do it. And we're just sitting back, letting them. Anytime somebody tells you they're going to do something evil like that, don't doubt them. They're testing your resolve. Now, when they start doing it, which they are, and you just keep letting them go on, what little bit of respect they may have had for you, that's long gone. And they will treat you the way they feel you deserve to be treated for not defending yourselves. They'll show no mercy on you or your family. This is how it works. So we'll talk about things like that. We'll talk about election interference and election fraud. We will talk about those things. What we need to do between now and 2024 to rid ourselves of early in-person voting and mail-in ballots. Neither one of those methods of voting are legal in federal elections. There are federal election laws that state when the federal election days are. Now, the states can handle their local votes and their state votes any way they want. Don't care. You can throw darts at a balloon and whoever hits the most balloons wins. I don't care. They don't care. But federally, or federal elections, which is president, congressman, House Representatives, Senate, those are federal elections. There are laws that state when that must be held and why they're held in this fashion. And trust me when I tell you, mail-in balloting and early in-person voting, they're not on that list. They're not on the reason why. In fact, that early voting stuff is why we have a certain date. It helps eliminate and cut down dramatically on fraud. So there's a lot of different things we're going to talk about. So I don't know how long this little episode is going to be. It's more of an introductory type. And I'm not sure what hours my show will be on. It'll probably be in the evening. And of course, it'll be recorded as well. So you can go up to the site and listen to it anytime you want. If you like what I have to say, even part of it, hopefully you'll like all of it. It may take a while for you to come around to how I think and my points. But share the podcast. Share it. Even if you don't like it, share it. Sharing is how we share knowledge. So I had this idea about the internet when I started learning about it in early 80s. And I thought, well, that would be a great tool to share knowledge worldwide, to exchange great ideas, to come together and solve the big problems. It didn't turn out that way. We got a few billion pages of porn. We got a lot of, and some people can take it the wrong way, but we have people with an IQ of 90 on the internet ruining it for the rest of us. Okay. Maybe we need to have two levels of internets: idiots over here, the hierarchy of people over here. I don't know. It's just a thought. But they've polluted the gene pool. These evil, ignorant, hate-filled people have harmed us, not as just a community here, but around the world, because any idiot can get online. And then their words are picked up and they're believed by the other idiots. And you see what I'm saying? It just keeps going and going and going. And it's like a snowball rolling downhill, except for this snowball never stops. It just keeps gaining momentum and gaining more people that shouldn't be here contributing to the conversation. And again, some people say, well, I have a right to contribute to the conversation. Yeah, you may have a right. But if you're out here lying, providing disinformation, and just be mean as hell, no, you don't have a place here. I can get mean once in a while, but in a way that's trying to be constructive, if that makes sense, to motivate. It's like if somebody's an idiot, you're an idiot. Do I know everything? Oh, no, nobody does. Do I like to learn? Yes. Do I take the time to vet the sources where I do my research? Absolutely. There's a lot of bad places out there to research on. So through decades and decades of me doing research, I know where the good resources are at. I know what to avoid. I will occasionally go to those places to avoid, just to see the garbage, the lies, and misinformation they're spreading to the other half of the people in this country who just are programmed to believe it. So another thing I'd like to talk about is education, or more lack thereof. We have indoctrination, not education. We've had that for about 40 years. We have deliberate dumbing down of our students, brainwashing, indoctrination, all of it, since about, well, starting in the colleges in the late 60s and on up to current time. Then it started in elementary and high school levels, starting in the early 80s, once the Department of Education was created. And the Republican Party turned over all the education, all the cultural, societal things over to the Democrats. I know this because I been to enough Democrat political meetings growing up in my early adulthood as well, and of course lots of Republican ones. And the Republicans, they just didn't want to mess with the social issues, the education issues. And I'd be like talking to my senators, congressmen, people like that. He says, why? Why don't you? Oh, well, we're just not going to mess with that. He says, well, the Democrats, this is what they're doing. They're lying to our kids. They're dumbing them down. They're turning them into programmed little mind numb socialists. And all these Republicans would say to me, well, John, they'll figure it out. They'll get out of school and, they'll figure out what real life is like. I'm like, really? So what part of being dumbed down and indoctrinated don't you understand? They never understood it. Then in all earnest, I mean, it was gradually building up. But in 2000, the media pretty much went all in on the Democrats. And who's talking for whom? Don't know. Who's taking the marching orders? Is the Democrat Party taking marching orders from the media, or is it the other way around? All we know is they are on the same page every day on everything. Disinformation and lies, which reinforces the indoctrination to the millions and millions, tens of millions of people who have had that done to them. So they turn into their same news sources, whether it's radio, TV, internet, newspaper, whatever. And they're seeing the same stuff that they believe in. That's what I mean by the media is reinforcing that indoctrination. They never give them a break. They haven't for over 20 years. I kind of feel sorry for him, but at the same time, if he had a real soul, if you had a halfway functioning brain, you would know that the things they're telling us that we should do is BS. Most recent example, of course, is oh, here, you wear this face diaper and you won't catch COVID. Come on, folks. In fifth grade science, we knew, were taught, and it's fact, that a mask like that will not stop a virus. The virus is too small, it goes right through it. A 5-minute search on the internet on a reputable site would have told you the same thing. But what did we do? Half the people automatically believed it because it came from their preferred source of information, which reaffirms in their indoctrination every day and keeps them stupid, keeps them dumbed down. And oh my God. People like, okay, around the world, not just here, everywhere. It's like, oh, well, I'll put this on and save me from COVID. Well, God bless you. I can't do anything really to help you. I wish I could. And another thing, I'm going to highlight another part of that. It's like, so if you really believe a mask protects you from COVID, then why do I need to wear a mask? Because you're already protected. So me not wearing a mask, what's that? Cancel out your mask? I mean, really, how's that work? So I've always been confused on that one. Couldn't be a smartass here. And now that they've all admitted, even Fauci, I think even the New York Times just recently, a lot of your media and a lot of the media that the people turn to every day finally admitted, yeah, they never worked. You know, they didn't prevent anything. And guess what? Social media, like some of the places where this podcast would be, still block you or ban you or kick you off their platform for saying what I just said, even though their lords and masters at the New York Times and the like have already confirmed, yeah, they never worked. It was a bad idea. Fauci has admitted it. A lot of people have admitted it. But you still can't speak that truth. It's called censorship, and it's keeping you stupid. It's keeping you scared, and it's keeping us divided. Those of us who know better than to believe this nonsense, because it just wasn't true from the get-go. A lot of things they tell us are just a flat-out lie. There's this division between the people who are willing to believe anything and everything their lords and masters in the mainstream media tells them. They never question it. I know this. I was raised by those people. My family, all but a couple members of my family, are Democrats. They believe everything that their media sources tell them. My late father and I used to really get into it once in a while. And he'd come up with just whatever. I didn't watch world news or any of that nonsense. It's just all lies, and I knew it. And Dad would call me up and say, hey, did you see this? Whatever. I'm like, no. And he'd get all excited or bent out of shape or in a wad about whatever it was. And I would say, hey, Dad, that's not true. What they're telling you is a lie. Look, you don't know that. Well, I do. And then I would set out to prove that what he was told was a lie. No matter how many times I did that, he refused to admit that he was being lied to and believe in the lies. Yeah, what was it? Mark Twain said something that's like, I'm paraphrasing probably real badly here, that it's easier to, how do you want to say? It's really hard to prove to somebody that they're a liar, that they believed a lie. It makes a fool out of them. They would rather continue to believe the lie than to be the fool. And yeah, when you believe something you thought was true, and then you found out it wasn't, yeah, that's hurtful. It does make you feel a little bad. Once in a while when it happens to me, I feel, okay, I should have known better, but I'm really good about researching. Here's the thing, though. I'll never trust that source again. Never. The Democrats They don't know any different. They just don't. They've just been so, just like my dad. My mom was no better. I was closer to my dad. My siblings are no better. And I'd be like, really? Here's evidence right here that proves that what they told you is a lie. They don't believe it because they can't admit that they were fooled and fooled by an entity they trusted. So we really don't have anything to do with each other anymore. Have for a long time. I just can't be around people that are just that mean and hateful and refuse to believe that well, they basically say everything I say is a lie because I research, I do things, and it's counter to what they're being told. I'm sure a lot of you have people like that in your lives that you know you're right, you've done your homework, done your research, you present it well, and then you say it to a family member or friend and go, oh, well, you're wrong. And then you ask them why you're wrong. And they say, well, NBC told me this, or CNN told me that. Oh, really? That's not a credible source. Then, of course, they'll ask you to cite your sources. And then when you do, they'll say, oh, well, none of those sources are reliable. And you ask them why. Well, because CNN told me so. See how that works? I don't know what we can do, if anything, for those people. I just don't know. Friend of mine told me the other day, I've known him for almost 50 years. And it's people, they just don't want to know the truth. They can't handle the truth. And they'd rather keep living a lie. Okay. But see, that's getting the rest of us who know the truth, don't want to live a lie, and don't want to live a life under tyranny. It's getting the rest of us in trouble. So that's not good. I don't want this to happen to anybody. Well, at the same time, I'm not going to sit back idly and allow these things to be done to myself or anyone else. No one deserves the tyranny, the hell that the Democrat Party is bringing on, has brought to this country, and will continue to do so until we stop them. Just is that simple. Like I said early on, we'll never talk them out of your agenda. Think of a Democrat as a bully. I had a lot of those growing up out in the country schools. You had to ask them to stop doing whatever it is they're doing. And if they didn't, then the next time you will make sure that they are stopped. Well, you just had to do that. And teachers back in the day, they were understanding. They kind of, the few guys of us who would stop these bullies from picking on the girls and pulling their hair and throwing them down in the dirt and just, or even other boys, weak boys. We would defend them and we would have to take out the bullies, just beat the hell out of them. And on some of them, it would take 2 or 3, 4 times, but eventually they'd get the message. It's the same thing with the Democrat Party. They are bullies. You do this or we will do to this. It's called the cancel culture. And that's another thing I want to really get into. I am tired of us being canceled, our side being canceled. Guess what it's time for, folks? It's time for us to cancel them. We have the ability to stop them peacefully, legally, and quickly. But we don't. I will get more into that in details. I'll do a lot of shows on this, I'm sure. It's great conversation. It starts getting people to start thinking, which, if nothing else, that's what I want this podcast to do, is get people to start thinking and then doing. You're not a patriot when we're just sitting here talking and not organizing. I would love to somehow motivate 15, 20 million people to act as one and stop this. I don't have that voice, at least not yet. But each and every one of you have a voice that can share and spread the messages. When we don't share, my words, the words of anybody on any podcast or any radio station, they're just gone into the ether. Not everybody has the time or desire to listen to talk radio or talk type podcasts. So it's up to those who do to share it out. And I have this, I guess, probably a fantasy, which hopefully won't remain unfulfilled, that our side on the right comes together as one cohesive group. Instead of fundraising, selling books, how about we get together as one massive organized group, use our economic clout and might, and cancel the left? We can do that. We can do it quickly. And the left loves their money. They love their power. You deprive them of their money, they have no more power. And we can do that. And we must do that. Right now, we're feeding the monster that's devouring us with our own money, our own work. For 30 years, I've been so anti-China, it's just crazy. None of my elected officials ever agreed with me. That's what I liked about Trump. Him and I have the same like mind on China. During my first campaign for Congress in 2000, I was warning about China even then. And said, they are the threat. They're using our money from us buying their products from them, products that we used to make here. And they're building the largest military in the world. Oh no, I tell you what, Kansas City Star wrecked me over the coals on that one. That was an election of 2000. And everybody just thought I was crazy. Just laughed at me, mocked me. Really? I don't expect ever to get an apology from any of those people. But what I do expect is for them now to learn. Now that we have allowed China to be pretty much equal to us in a lot of areas militarily and economically, because we farmed out so much of our production to China that they cut it off or they take Taiwan, they literally will hold the entire world hostage, not just us, the entire world, because they will control 80% of electronic components like chips on the planet. China will control 80% of that because about 80% of it right now, I think, comes from Taiwan. Do you really want those people with that kind of power? And trust me, they'll use it. They'll extort the hell out of the rest of the world to get what they want or demand that you give up XYZ or you don't get chips to keep your civilization going. They will do that. And I've yelled about that for 23, 24 years now. And I've always been concerned about offshoring work. I didn't like it when we did it with Japan. Didn't like it when we did it with Taiwan. I sure didn't like it with China because China is an outright enemy. I don't think we need to worry about Taiwan or Japan nuking us or invading us. We don't need to worry about that. But China, yeah, you do. They're not one of the world's oldest civilizations for no reason. Okay, so y'all need to think about that as well. Anyway, I just want to kind of give you an overview of what we're going to go into. And I'm me being me, nothing fancy, straight shooter. If you get offended about what I say sometimes, get over it. Please dust yourself off, find a sense of humor about it, and learn. We all need to learn. We all need to do. Pray to God for guidance and help. Then get off your knees and start fighting Satan. Stop praying that God comes back to save our ass. We have no idea when he's going to come back. We don't, do we? No man knows the time or hour. So those of you who are out there saying, well, we're in the end times, and we may be, and Jesus will be back any time. Well, we don't know that. We don't know how long, if we are in the end times, how long the end times last. Because, to God, a day isn't a day. It's hundreds of years. So, yeah, we don't know. So we got to stop acting like Jesus is about ready to come in with the cavalry behind him and save us. Act like that's not going to happen anytime soon because we don't know that it is. I know that it will. He does win in the end, but we don't know when the end is here. Those of you who think you know or have a crystal ball that says so, please share with the rest of us because we'd all like to know. In the meantime, after you get through praying to God for guidance and help, get off your knees, grab your sword of righteousness, and let's go dance with the devil. Because I tell you what, he respects you when you fight him. When you acknowledge what he is and what he's doing and you go after him, he'll respect you. Not picking a side, he doesn't respect you. God doesn't either. You know what he says about being, in the middle? You got the hot and cold. He doesn't want you in the middle. He wants you to pick a side. Pick a side. Sitting in the middle, doing nothing, is not picking a side. That is the worst of the worst of the worst. God knows it. God says it. Satan knows it. So for all you millions and millions out there saying, well, I'm not going to get involved. I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to sit back and hope that Jesus saves the day before I'm dead. That don't work. Satan will come after you twice as hard. And again, like I said, God's not happy about that either. He needs you to make a decision. So this is what I'm trying to get people motivated to do. Pick a side. Hopefully it's the side of righteousness. But if you really think you need to work for Satan and work for killing babies, born now and unborn, for tyranny, for destruction of our people, for destruction of our civilization, if you really think you need to do that, and that's the way to go, then go all in on it and take the side of Satan. Great deceiver. We'll know where you're at. Okay? There is no middle ground in this spiritual war, folks. None. So I get passionate. I can't help it. Other days I'll be a little more funny. Well, at least, I think I'm funny. Maybe one of these days I'll tell my version of what happened in the garden that day when Eve took the bite out of that apple. It's meant to be funny, but to prove multiple points. Anyway, I'm going to leave it here right now. And y'all have a good rest of the evening. Bye.